Hi, Vera.
Hi, how are you?
Good, thank you. You happy to go, Gareth? I'm just seeing.
Yeah, go ahead, Joe. Yeah.
Yeah, Vera, congratulations, first of all. To a certain extent, do you feel there is unfinished business? And from a personal point of view, does that make today's news of the contract extension all the more positive for you?
Yeah, I think that is exactly the summary that you can make. We, from all sides, we feel that we're not ready, and that we're on a path that we all want to continue. We think that there is so much more to grasp for the players, that changing now would be a shame for them. And for myself, I feel that we're just on the way. Also because of COVID, of course, we had only the qualification matches. We did not have any friendlies. So we did what we could. And within that, I think that we're probably the only team that every time was growing a step. And we've not seen the ceiling yet. So it's indeed, I think, unfinished business. Yeah, I think that's a good way to say it.
Vera, from a personal point of view, how much have you enjoyed the past 2 years and giving, I suppose, the quite emotional interview you gave at the end of the Germany game? Have you enjoyed it more than you thought you would? Have you found it more fulfilling working with the Irish women?
So you mean what I would have expected, or?
Yes.
Yeah, well, before I signed, I really was diving into that squad and see what kind of personalities they were. But of course, you don't know if it all comes together. And I must say that it's been actually a year and a half or so, not even, that we were together, and we have hardly seen each other, but we created a bond with each other that I feel is very special. And I think that they feel the same. So the reactions that I got from players, but don't forget the staff, the enormous positivity that I felt from my staff and the professionalism of my staff, with all the colleagues around them. I don't think that I've ever felt an atmosphere like that, an atmosphere of really wanted to make a difference and wanted to make a change. And it's not just the players, it's the whole environment. If you see that now the Women's National League under 19 is set up with so many teams, where before last year we couldn't even get 6 teams agreeing. There's a whole vibe of positivity around the game. And that is an atmosphere that I really like, I really want to be part of. And I hope that I've done my part to also create it, of course.
How integral a part of what you see as the future for this squad is the strength of the Women's National League?
The Women's National League is the base of all the players in Ireland of our women's national team. So the growth of the game at club level is crucial for the growth of the women's national team. And there's a lot of players that went abroad. And of course they grew further because there is the full professional environment with the international full stars that they are playing with. But the base is the Women's National League, and we will do everything to help that develop. The clubs are doing everything that they can within their power, and if we connect with that and we grow together, we create an atmosphere in which the players can train more with boys, for example, aside their club training and aside their club games, then everybody becomes a better player. So the whole game will improve. And I think that's something that will be really part of my job also.
And final one from me, if I may. How much tougher a task is the World Cup compared to the Europeans? Is it another step up for the squad, another step up as regards aspirations and difficulties?
Well, there's 11 countries qualifying, plus 1 playoff place to grasp. So that means a maximum of 12, whereas the European Championships is 16. So in that sense, it's already more difficult. But on the other hand, we need to wait for the draw. Because the draw that we had was with Germany, in which virtually there was no chance. So there was actually in our group only one opponent. And it really came back to a very unfortunate game away, where we dominated in a away game, where we made the next step into dominating our game, especially also in our attacking play. And with a very unlucky own goal and missing a penalty, that is how we've been kicked out. And I want to re-emphasize that when I was a committee member at UEFA, I was trying to stick up for, let's say, the countries like Ireland, because this is happening all the time, that there's one top team, and that's because the growth of women's football is going with top teams that go fast and the second team that need to follow. So it's always in every qualification campaign that the groups where the top team is unbeatable, and that's 2 or 3 groups, that in that group the second place is based on actually one game, and that's the second game of the competitors against one another. And if that game is unlucky, then you're out for another few years. And I've been trying to change the system. It's very simple. Just do playoffs between the second and third place teams, one extra round, and then you are sure that you get the best teams at the finals. But unfortunately, that has not changed yet. And we were dealing with this situation, like Scotland, for example. They have been kicked out in the same way.
Okay, Vera, thanks very much. Gareth, thank you very much.
So coming back, like the World Cup, we need to wait for the draw. That's actually, because it could turn out then that it becomes easier than the European Championship. And although we have only 4 teams less going to the World Cup.
Okay. Daniel Pitcher.
Is that any English? Can you follow me? Yeah.
Yes, I can. Yes, I can.
Daniel Pitcher.
Yeah, Gareth, thanks very much. Vera, lovely to speak to you, and congratulations again. I was speaking to Katie McCabe last week, who was talking about the difficulties about, surrounding the pandemic and the world that we live in, and not being able to meet up, and how that really disrupted the flow, because you obviously went from being in such a great position to qualify to obviously not qualifying. With all of that, with hindsight, in mind as well, going into the qualifiers in September, what do you take out of that? Because it's looking it's looking highly unlikely that we're going to be out of these restrictions anytime soon. So having gone through all of that, within the space of the last 6 months or whatever, what are the lessons you take from that, and what do you bring forward to make sure that what happened in terms of missing out on qualifying doesn't happen again?
Yeah. So what I've done is really looking back from the starting point for my profession as a coach and getting a team qualifying. And I don't want to criticize anything, because it's a choice of somebody. But the planning that the previous coach has made is a planning that was set up for this. Let's say, for this curve. And he did it very consciously, and he really wanted to have this planning, but I would have never planned it like that, because we could predict before we started that we would be on the top of the group, and that it will come down to that only game against Ukraine, because the games against Germany were the last game and 2 games before that. So that means that everybody thinks that you're in a great position, but we weren't. We weren't at all. So it's a false idea that we went down in our momentum, although it feels like that, because we were on the top, and it feels that we've let it go, but that's not the case, because every game, again, I think we're the only team who grew during COVID. And after the Germany game, they said the second half is the best half Ireland ever played. Then the Ukraine game, the general comment was best game that Ireland ever played. Germany home, the best game Ireland ever played. So that means that although there was COVID, with all the work of the players and the staff and everything that we've done with them while not seeing each other, was that we still were growing. So for me, it's not a lesson that we went down. For me, it's a lesson that every game we stepped up, and then looking from my profession, but that we're not finished. And it comes back to the first question. We're not ready with each other, because we haven't seen the ceiling yet. And that gives me all the trust to go on, and with a little bit of luck of a draw, that we really can go for qualifying for the World Cup. I truly mean that.
So are you happy that there's more positives than negatives to take from that previous campaign?
There's only positives taking it from it, really. And I don't say that to say a nice word, but I really feel that. The only thing what I can say, it might be something that we really need to look into, is how do we keep the players fit so that we don't get the situation that they either are on the bench and not match fit, or that they get injured because of overload, and that we get a situation like Greece away, with 5 players of the lineup not being available. That's the only thing, that we really need to have a connection with the clubs, with the players, and see how we can get more balance in the programs.
And very finally for me then, you spoke about the importance of the Women's National League here, and in the last couple of months we've seen that the league now will be under the same sponsorship as the men's, which has been very much welcomed. And I know that you obviously haven't had that much time to sort of look at the women's game here. But from
there were no games, eh?
from what you have seen though, how far away do you think a fully professional league here, like how far along the line do you think that we're looking at in terms of having a professional league here, so that people don't have to go away to get their football?
For me, I always keep the slogan when I go into something that seems to look impossible, is that everything is possible until the moment it proves not to be possible. And that is how I set up the Premier League in the Netherlands, Eredivisie. Everybody declared me crazy. Everybody said, what you want your entire life, it will not happen. And within 3 months, we had it done. So the enthusiasm of people is part of it. It's not me, it's the enthusiasm of the people that makes the difference. So if we can get a situation that teams are really connected and integrated into senior men's clubs, then it goes really fast, because it's not about the payments. As far as I understood, and maybe there's 1 or 2 clubs, but as far as I know, is that all the players do not have to pay to play anymore. And that's a huge step this year. The next step is to connect them to senior clubs, so that the facilities for the coaches to train on a regular basis is there. And as soon as you've got that done, if there's a gap, to fill that with mixed gender training, then you're ready. Then you're ready to close the gap. And that can go really fast. But it depends again on the enthusiasm of the people to really make that difference and really make that step. And the way it is now, the growth will be too slow to really end up soon in the situation that they have an elite sport program on a daily basis. Can you follow me?
Yeah.
Because that is crucial in the next period, that we create a situation that players can train in Ireland at an elite level on a daily basis, that they don't have to go to the gym to do other things to be busy, but that really football related high quality activity, that we arrange that for the players on a daily basis, and not only on the 2 sessions or 3 sessions at the club with the game, but on the other days that they don't have a program.
Thank you, Vera.
You're welcome.
Stephen Doyle, are you there?
I am, Gareth, thank you. Hiya, Vera.
Sorry, yeah, there's messages coming in, so I want to get all those noises out. I hope it doesn't disturb you.
No
Okay.
problem, Vera, thank you. I was just wondering, just to clear up your background team, is there any changes? Are they all signing up with you as well for the next 2 years?
Well, we have, I said the precondition is that my backroom staff stays. But the contracts, of course, I've signed this weekend. So the contracts of Eileen and Jan Willem, they are really busy to get that fast-tracked. There is agreement about the conditions, but it's not signed yet. So I hope that will be signed today, tomorrow, or the day after. But it's promised that the deal is done, and that we now need to really quickly get those signatures, because that was a precondition of me, that I could keep my staff. And again, I've never been in a situation with a better staff than I have at this moment. And then the total let's say, the total environment. If you look, for example, how we've been dealing with COVID, with our medical staff being on the place constantly to reinforce the protocols of what to do, what not to do, where's the space or where's not the space, the contact with Ellen Byrne and the HSE committee in the restrictions that we have, because we're fully aware that we're the only sport that can train, and now since the 21st of February we can play. And with that all, and the way that we are in contact with each other, trying to create a program that makes sense for the players, and not just doing because there is an exemption, but to find a quality program. I'm so proud of that, and that everybody's taking their responsibility, so that indeed the backroom staff, for me, was the most crucial part, that everybody would stay.
I know you mentioned previously in the last campaign that there were a lot of things going against you, the lack of crowds and, you know, missing players and that kind of thing. But on reflection on the campaign now as well, Vera, do you feel that, is there any mistakes that you made yourself or decisions that you made that you might go back on now on reflection?
The thing is, it sounds stupid if you say no, because we always think, could we have done something earlier? No, this is the reason why we did. The thing is, if you plan everything and you know before the game starts in what scenario you do what, then it doesn't come by just thinking, well, let's do something now, because we've all planned it in all scenarios before the game starts. So I don't regret anything, because if you really look back, the key thing was an own goal from 40 meters and a penalty kick not being scored, let alone all the chances that we missed in that one game. If one of that did not happen, we would have qualified now. And we would have been in a situation that we would say, wow, we even gave Germany a game, and we were 2-1 down, and we went with 4 attackers, and we played 1v1 in the back, and by times even 1 defender in the back to make sure that we could get the second goal. But then you have the chance to get the third goal against. And then we would have been in a complete different atmosphere now than that we think, where did we do something wrong? Because I don't think that we can blame anyone for the scenario that we were in. I really don't think so. I think we've taken the best out of it. And of course we could have scored, and we should have scored more. But that is also part of a process. You cannot blame anyone for that. Even an own goal, it's part of the deal. And the only way what we can do now, and that's maybe something that I regret, or that we should regret, we all, the players should have been able to train with mixed gender earlier. And that was not possible because of an insurance that we couldn't get cleared. So it shows that a moment like that is pressure of the game. Then players do what they're used to do. And if they never feel that pressure of the game, and only that one moment they feel that, then you get mistakes the way that we have made. So my staff was one condition, and the other condition was that we have to get mixed gender training arranged, because otherwise in the next qualifying campaign we will get exactly the same moment. So that is a lesson that we really learned. Again,
I'm sorry, which men's teams would you?
We cannot deal with training without the pressure that you meet internationally.
Okay, sorry, which men's teams would you plan on training with then?
It depends on the individual, and we look then for a team that they can train with that meets their standard, that meets that they need to be on their tiptoes, but that they still can play. So defenders will be a little bit older boys than attackers, because attackers need to create, and they need to be able to really do something, get around players if they're at their best, and defenders need to stop players from scoring if they're at their best. And that means in practical that the defenders are training with boys of 1 year older than the attackers and the midfielders.
Okay, just to ask you about the goalkeeping situation as well, because it has been problematic since Emma Byrne retired, and I know you used 3 goalkeepers yourself in the campaign. How do you think you're going to fix that going into this qualification campaign?
I think that it's clear that that position is to grasp. There's not one clearly, but we have been working on getting more consistency in the goalkeeping performance. And we have been looking around, and that is why it's so important that we have Jan Willem on board, Jan Willem van Ede, because he's so experienced on the needs at the international level. He's been at Olympic Games, World Cups, European Cups, with boys, with men, and with women. And it shows that he can trigger players to really take responsibility themselves. And the last period of time, Grace really took that and really stood out, and that earned her place. If you compare her performance against Germany with a few months earlier, that is incomparable. Is that English? And it will trigger other goalkeepers also. So we were very pleased with the performance of Grace. It was exceptional against Germany, and of course that is now the standard. And we see who meets the standard, but that is the standard now. The moment you step up, that's the new standard.
And just one quick final one for me, Vera. The issue of equal pay with the senior international men's team has been obviously in the news over the last couple of months. Have you been given any indication by the FAI that the women will soon be on the same level of pay as the men's team? And what are your own views on it?
The view is that the problem is we do not yet bring in money, and equal pay comes when there's a possibility to equal pay. It is a starting point that we really want to achieve as quickly as possible, but the key thing is what we need is equal approach of opportunity. And that's a difference than being equal. The clubs train only 2 times a week. Players need to find their own places to, and there's a club 3 times a week, but then there's players who need to find their own training environment. There's all other issues that is not equal with the men. So let's focus first on getting equal opportunities for training, for development, and because that is something that is achievable and that is not expensive. That is something of will and enthusiasm, and it's then my task to make clear what would be the best steps to achieve that very quickly. And it is achievable very quickly. If that is the case and everybody is training at elite level, and that means 5 to 6 training sessions, football sessions, plus a game a week, if we reach that, then you come automatically in the situation that sponsors will step in and that there will be money. That is my experience in other countries. You first need to create equal opportunity, then meet the equal opportunity and perform in that equal standards, and then the money will come in and it will grow. It happened in the Netherlands, happened in South Africa, everywhere where I've worked, even now in Scotland. So that is my view on it. Yes, we want it as quickly as possible, but we need to take responsibility for getting equal opportunity, and the players need to meet those standards also. And they will, because they want to. They're eager and they really want to make that step.
Okay. Kevin
Thanks,
Galvin.
Thanks. Hi, Vera. I just want to ask you about Saoirse Noonan recently moved from Cork City up to Shelbourne, and she kind of cited the reason being in terms of she wants to get in the Irish team. Was that a conversation that you guys had, or is it more that there's an expectation for international women that they would play at certain clubs, or can you might give us a little bit more about
Rumors also. It's the opposite. If you look at how I developed the Eredivisie, the Premier League in the Netherlands, I've been fighting till the day that I left the association for equal division of players, equal division of quality. But that was a different situation. That was a league set up by the association and under control of the association. And I must say, the moment I left, within 10 days, they gave that task back. And there's huge differences now within the league, also with all the problems that brings. But it's the opposite. If you look in my heart, but I have no power to do that. If you look at my heart, I would love to have the quality equally spread out over the country, over the league, over all clubs. But the situation is that a player is looking for that she thinks that make a step up. I've not spoken with Sorcia about it. I've not spoken with the club about it. I saw it on social media, and the first thing that I did was texting Eileen with the question, is this a good thing? And she might, for herself, she wants to make that step. For the league, it's another issue. So let's see how it turns out. But it's definitely not a demand to be on a top team to get into the national team. It's not a demand to play with them or to join with them. And if you look into my development heart, the first thing I would say, it's not good for the league. So it's not good for development, which means it's not good as a whole for development of the players in general. But the individual case, yeah, I had no control. I had to read it out of social media, and I have had not one call with Sorcia about it. And I think she's been clear in the papers about it. She was very clear that she took full responsibility herself.
And I suppose, speaking of another young player, Ella Malloy, you had in kind of a meteoric rise, really, in terms of going straight into Women's National League and then straight into the Ireland team. I suppose, first of all, what do you see in her in terms of as a future potential player? And I suppose, how far do you think she could go?
It's difficult to answer that. Of course, if you enter the women's national team and you show what you do show, then you're one of the key talents of Ireland. That is clear. But I'm not going to predict anything for her. She's 16-year-old. She will turn 17, and she has a whole development to go. And we're very careful with her. For example, we had a home-based game yesterday against Shelbourne. And that is the only thing that we could organize because the foreign-based players couldn't enter Ireland and the Irish players couldn't leave Ireland. And she only played 2 blocks. So we are protecting her very much so, and to get her ready for the steps up. And we'll see how she develops. We of course, like with all the players, we're in contact with her, and we try to help her. But she needs a natural development. It's going too fast for her now, so we try to get off the pressure of her so that she gets a natural development, although she makes huge steps. And we see how far she gets. She's strong, so we have good hopes for her, but she's the one who needs to do it.
Brilliant, Vera. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Alice Linehan.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Hi, Vera.
Hi.
I know we've talked about the National League and kind of the positives that are coming now in the future, but I was wondering, how positive is it for you to see more players playing in the UK and in Europe? Like, for example, Niamh Farrelly just moving to Glasgow. What's that telling you about the future of the team and how the team is progressing?
Of course, it's a positive that clubs are tapping into our players. But I want to reinforce that I have no opinion about where players play. And I do not encourage players to go abroad or to stay at home. It's purely their own decision. What my role is, helping players in the situation where they are, helping them to develop within the circumstances that they face. And of course, there's more need for the players in Ireland because they only train 2 or 3 times at the club. But that doesn't mean that I want players to leave Ireland. I'm not a coach like that. I deal with the circumstance where I'm in. It's up to the players how they want to grow. And the thing is, I've been a player myself. I left the country also to play professionally. I was the first professional player in the Netherlands, female. And you do it for yourself. You do it because you want to go out. You want to explore the world in your sport. But please believe me, it's not coming from me. I just take it as it is.
Okay, and you said that yesterday you had a friendly match. Were there any positives to take away from that, or are you seeing any good signs? I know obviously you can't have the overseas players come back, but how did they play against Shelbourne?
It's very easy to say the foreign-based players cannot be part of it, so we don't do anything. But we thought, no, let's grab this to get the best players together and to play. Well, we could only play club teams, so that is why we chose the good teams, and that is because you need the resistance so that the activity makes sense. But especially some young players. There were young players from Galway that did very well. The young players of the women's national team really are stepping up. And of course, the usuals like Onja, she's always fit, she's always sharp and always there. But it is especially to get the players back in games again. So they play with their clubs, they can play now here, and to catch up with all the players that are based in other countries where they have full competition. So the likes of Katie and Louise, and they all have full competition, and the Irish-based players not. So this is purely to help the players, and it was a very good activity. I've seen the game already, and I'm very glad that we organized it in the way we did. And of course, I couldn't coach because I'm not allowed to travel into Ireland. So Eileen Gleason has coached it together with James Scott, the under-17 coach, and it went very, very well. With the rest of our staff was there.
Great, thank you.
Welcome.
Ed Leahy.
Hi Vera, how you doing?
Hi.
I suppose it's just looking back to the Germany game. It's almost 3 months now since the Germany game. You've
Really?
had since the 1st of December. So you've had plenty of time to reflect on your journey so far with the Irish team and everything that's happened since you came here. Could you just give me a list of maybe the positives that has convinced you to commit yourself to 2 more years on this journey?
The key thing is the enthusiasm of everybody. We've connected with the professionalism of everybody. I called them a bunch of tigers, I remember, but that is how they are. It's a group that really, really want to make that last step. It's staff that really give their everything to make that last step. It's colleagues that really create all the circumstances that we are treated equally and that we have equal opportunities to grow. And to me, that tells everything. And if I can add a little bit of experience to that, a little bit of knowledge maybe that I've gathered over the years with the studies that I've done, then I'm very, I'm very happy and glad. But I felt that we went up and up and up and up, and suddenly we're stopped. So I said literally to the players, don't stop us now. That is what we need to tell each other. Whatever happens with COVID, don't stop us now. And we promise that we do everything to step from here to make that next step, even though we only have two camps to go before the qualifying matches. It will be difficult, but I think it's been a decision of the heart. Stepping out now just didn't feel good for me. And everybody made clear that everybody wanted to go ahead in the way that we did. So that really, that supported me in my decision. I said after the game that I really needed to reflect and talk at home. But my husband sees the enthusiasm. He's the first one who kicked my butt and said, go back to the FAI and just go on because you cannot leave now. And I feel the same, and I'm happy with the reactions that I already get, and all the text messages and phone calls that I received before signing. I think it's a mutual agreement that we're not finished at the first one, and I think that is the key. We're not finished with each other.
And just on, I suppose, on the flip side, it has been 3 months to sign the new contract. Just with the men's team, the manager came out and said there was people behind the scenes causing problems for the team. Has there been any situation like that for yourself that may have brought negative ideas as to why you might not want to come back, or was it just that you wanted to reflect yourself on the last 3 months that it's taken this long?
I don't recognize that at all. I just said already I've had the most positive environment that I've experienced in my life. So in my career. No, for me, that doesn't feel like that at all. There were players, they constantly concentrate. And of course, young people make some mistakes by times. But they all want to make that step. I've got staff that give their all, that work during the nights. There's the media, they all are supportive in a sense, critical, and you should be so, and we all want that, because that means that you take us seriously, but fair and related to the facts. There was colleagues who constantly did an extra step for us to make things happen. So I just don't recognize that behind the scenes at all. I only see people working hard with a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of positivity to make things happen within the circumstances that we face with COVID. And it's not a secret that the FAI is not in the best financial situation, but within that all given, and everybody gives in and takes a bit and gives a bit, we have the best program that we can get. And I'm so proud of that. And it's not coming from me, although I need to lead it. It's coming from the whole group, players, staff, colleagues. Everybody has their part in it. And that made me decide to go on. Nothing else.
Thank you.
Dave Donnelly.
Yeah, I'm okay, thanks.
Okay. Paul Fennessy.
Yep, can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Yeah, just in terms of the next campaign, Vera, would it be fair to say do you think it would be fairly similar in terms of the playing personnel? Like, has there been any indication of possible players retiring, or do you think it would be more or less the same as the last campaign?
I understand your question now. No, I've not heard one player that is thinking of retirement. Of course, I've had a few discussions with let's say, I don't want to say older players.
Experienced.
The experienced players. But they all feel the same as I do now. They all say, each in their own words, we're not finished. We are not finished. And what they say to me, that they take the risk that younger players can take over in the next years. Of course, that is part of top sport. But they feel that we are not finished, and they feel being part of it now. And I am not a coach that thinks in years like we change now because in 3 years' time in a World Cup we might. No, we take the best players for now, the players that are now at the top, that perform now the best, they are in the national team. That's the nature of a national team, in my opinion.
And you spoke earlier about progress. Obviously, this year is going to be the first year that Electricity are sponsoring the Women's National League. Is that a sign that things are getting better for women's football in Ireland, do you think?
Is that my Wi-Fi, or I can't really?
He's asking, Vera, does the sponsor of the Women's National League, is that an indication that things are going well for women's football going forward?
Yeah, that's a truly a remarkable step that nobody really expected. It came like coming from a blue sky. It shows especially the positive vibe around our game, that everybody feels that something special is about to happen, and it should have happened this year, but it's about to happen, and everybody feels that. And I hope that I've made clear that is what makes me giving myself again to the game, and with full heart and full intention and full energy. It's a proof of that the game is developing, and is developing fast. The same as the Women's National League under 19, the development of that league and so many clubs being part of it is another proof. Is that the right word? Another proof that the game develops really fast. And together, I want to re-emphasize, together we can make huge steps. There's been a change in the structure of FAI with high performance coaches, with full-time head coaches of different teams with different tasks to it. So, for example, David Connell will have the scouting complete scouting nationally and internationally. James Scott is head of the ETP for girls and women. So in that way, and then Richie Berkeley will do the education of girls and women into their job. So there becomes a whole, let's say, vibe and togetherness that all the different parts of the game is worked on, and that no little fish can swim through the maze anymore, and that everybody who's part of the game hopefully very soon gets the support that everybody deserves to get. And that doesn't cost a lot of money. There's that structure, and that structure is now there, and within that structure we hope that we can really push the game in all different senses. The key thing is, I think, that we are together. We have every week meetings with each other. On video calls, we're busy with a development plan connected to the strategic plans. So a work plan, a real work plan with steps that every area is making from here to there. So I hope that really in a year time we see a huge improvement in all the opportunities and equal opportunities to grow. Does that make sense?
Yep.
It's still not my first language, yeah? So sometimes I'm searching for words. So, well, is that an answer to your question? I'm not sure.
That's perfect. Yeah, thanks very much.
Yeah.
I'll leave it there, and I thank you, Vera.
Thank you.